didn't know I wanted to. That beat.
I'm just waiting for you to say something.
Oh, I'm bringing us in. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politics. Thank you for joining us. We got a special guest on the show. You remember how on the last show we talked about we need to know more about the Mueller report.
Yes.
We're too far away. We're thousands of miles away from what's going on in D.C., so we need to know more. So we got Russ Fulcher, our Congressman, Russ Fulcher, on the phone. Russ, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. And I thank you for giving me a chance to come on, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, just really quickly. So, I mean, we have a lot of listeners and a lot of audience in Idaho. And so Russ Fulcher is Idaho's first congressional district. Idaho has two, count them two representatives in the U.S. House.
That camera.
And thank you.
I don't know. I remember there's only one camera on Wednesday. Friday is better.
But I just think this is really awesome. You know, just think about this. This is a biblical concept. The idea that we are represented by leaders, and so Russ is the representative of District 1, which actually spans the north all the way down to the south of Idaho, all the way down to Boise, even.
Wow.
So Russ, first of all, just thank you for being our representative.
Yeah.
You know what, my privilege, and it really is a privilege. Sometimes we take a look at the polling data and we'd see the unfavorable reviews that Congress gets, but it really is an honor, and I am thankful for that. And I actually wish it just went from the Canadian border to Boise, but it actually goes from the Canadian border all the way to Nevada. It's about a 13-hour drive if you go top to bottom.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So we want to talk to you about the Mueller report that just came out. But people have short memories, and we all sort of forget, and it's been kind of ongoing for a long time. So can you connect the dots for us and for our audience? How did we get to a special counsel investigation in the first place? What's going on?
Well, the abbreviated answer is the Mueller report isn't. That's the thing, because there's really nothing to report. But I know you want to go into more detail, so we'll be doing that. But in order to understand why this investigation has gone on and will continue to go on probably for a period of time, you have to understand kind of the basis of what caused it. What caused it was Donald Trump won the presidential election, and there were a significant number of people that did not want him to win that election.
Right.
And they've never been able to quite handle that. And so consequently, there is a number of members of Congress, my colleagues, that are simply infatuated with doing anything they can to try to get him out. And there are significant agency heads and members of government agencies that are devoting their time, efforts, and I would argue indirectly tax money to try to get him out. The system in Washington, D.C. is basically a parasite host type system, and it's been evolved over probably a number of decades before any of us were involved with this, and that the parasite system has a network where they have the skids greased to get things done, to get their particular clients taken care of, and so on and so forth. And this guy named Trump won an election, came back there, and started stirring it up. And he's fired people, and he's changed organizations around and agencies around, and that's a threat. And so in that relationship of a parasite-host relationship, when a parasite gets threatened, they do desperate things in order to try to correct that situation. In this case, it's a series of investigations to try to find anything to get rid of the president.
No, Russ, didn't Russia influence his election?
Russia has tried to influence a lot of elections, a lot of different things. And we've known about that for some time. They've used social media, other tools to try to incite certain violence or certain messages along the way. And so that's a trick that Putin and his cronies have executed on for a long time. Where this investigation came from, or so allegedly, was if Donald Trump had any kind, or his campaign had any type of interaction with that. He said that they didn't. Most of the Republican side of the equation said that he didn't. And so then the special counsel Mueller was appointed to investigate this. And so after 675 days and 25.2 million and 40 FBI agents and countless attorneys, there's no significant evidence of that taking place.
Yeah.
But yet we continue to drill down on this and waste time and energy as far as I'm concerned.
So how come, and I still don't understand how come Hillary Clinton was never investigated, with actual...
She didn't win, Gabe. She didn't win, okay? Doggone it, man.
I can't get over it.
She didn't
win. I can't get over it.
I fixed that one for you.
Even from her relationship,
it would be fair to say that there truly is a double standard. We've known that for some time, but she actually deleted emails and bleached a server and kept a private server when she wasn't supposed to, and used it for business and government purposes. And if any of those things would have showed up in the Mueller report or Mueller report, whatever it is, then there would be impeachment proceedings going forward. There would be something to charge the president with, but that didn't happen. And those that are pursuing this investigation are not liking the fact that they aren't getting the answer they want. And so they continue to try to chase different avenues. Well, and here's another way to look at it, gentlemen. If you're the party whose agenda includes open borders, allowing non-citizens to vote, felons to vote, and infanticide, maybe you'd want to have some kind of an investigation to distract people's attention, because I wouldn't want to be standing on that kind of an agenda. And that's exactly what's happening.
But it's interesting. It's not just the Democrats. Like you said, you have agencies inside of Washington that are against Trump, and they're supposed to be nonpartisan, right? But it seems like, though, they are considering Trump almost more a threat than the Democrats are. What is it that Trump is doing that really makes them afraid?
Firing them.
Losing the job. That's it.
And taking, I like Comey and the some of the senior people. Trump is a business guy, and I don't defend everything he says, everything he does. We've got totally different styles, but on the other hand, he takes a look at this thing more as a business, and he has shaken that system up. He's rearranged agencies, he's rearranged departments. That threatens that host-parasite relationship I was describing. And he fires people, and that's a direct threat. And so whatever they can do to try to protect the system that they have built and developed for so long, they're going to try to do. Remember that the elected officials to many of the bureaucrats are nothing more than transients. They come, they go. We come, we go. And so me, for example, I've recently been elected, and those who disagree with the things I stand on that are in agency positions, they just say, okay, we'll just wait this guy out. He'll run 2-4 terms, whatever. He'll be gone, and we'll be back to the system that we want.
Interesting.
Now, one of the things that Mueller's report brings out a bit, and a number of people, even conservatives that are generally appreciative of Trump, have pointed out, though, is hasn't Trump lied a bunch about all this stuff? Didn't he behind the scenes tell people, don't tell them the truth? Donald Jr., don't tell them about your meeting with the Russians about Trump Tower.
His actually report.
I mean, is how does that affect your assessment of all this? If he's lying a bunch behind the scenes or telling other people to lie?
First of all, I don't know if that's true or not. It could be. I'm not personally aware of it, and so that evidence would need to be presented and clear in order to, at least for me to agree to it. But I think that we would, for a couple things. Number one is that town and the information flow leaks like a sieve. If there was something that was clearly collusion or clearly obstruction, we'd have known about it before the investigation ever began. I mean, no one can keep a secret there.
That's a good point.
And so to have this thing go on and on and on, if Mueller had something, if there was something clear, that would have been out there long ago.
Right.
And so, and by the way, I don't deny that, or I won't say I deny. I wouldn't be shocked if there was some verbal exchanges during a campaign or even after that applied to a window of time before the president was elected. Remember, he did business in Russia,
Right.
with prior to being elected, and like a lot of Eastern European countries, they don't have the same business practices we do. I would be shocked if he got a hotel built in Russia someplace and there wasn't some kind of under the table dealing, because that's the only way things happen in Russia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been there. Yeah.
Sure.
So how right now, when I looked at the report, I was just kind of saying to myself, okay, so he's not exonerated, but it doesn't seem like they found anything on Trump. What is it that the Democrats then are going to use from this report now to attack him with? Because it seems like that the only option that they really have is to say you don't have a guy who's playing by the rules and he's doing everything he can to get what he wants. Is that their only play at this point?
Yeah, it's a distraction. And if there was any genuineness to the investigation, and and by those who were making charges that are trying to further this investigation, there would have been some kind of rejoicing. There would have been some kind of acknowledgement that there wasn't overt collusion.
Right.
We never ever heard that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the fact that there was no conciliatory. Well, thank goodness the president didn't collude, or thank goodness there's nothing obvious.
Right.
Right. But there was none of that. It was what can we do next? How can we keep the narrative moving forward? They're still struggling with the fact that he's disrupting their system, and he won an election that they were absolutely convinced that their candidate was going to win.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help, quite frankly, that the president's style is an in-your-face kind of style, because he's not shy about sticking it in their face, and it does probably add to the fervor.
I think it does help. I think Trump being
on the offensive,
on the offensive has been. I don't think any other president would have gotten Kavanaugh pushed through, because I think they would have caved. Right. I think Trump being offensive, of course it can. I think there's been moments where it has hurt him, but him being so offensive with his presidency and his Twitter account, I think has been really good.
Gabe, I do agree with you. I was a Ted Cruz guy. When in that race, I was a district director a regional director for the Cruz campaign, and I showed up in Cleveland and cast my vote for Cruz. But I will tell you, and this is nothing against Ted, because I think he's a fabulous guy. I do believe that this president is the right guy at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
He has got a skin that is not only incredibly thick. Some people say he's got a thin skin. I disagree. But he's got he feeds off of this, and he can take abuse in the media. He can take abuse in a press situation like no one I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's 20 some years older than me, and he never stops.
Yeah. Now, so one of the tensions in the Mueller report was, okay, there was clearly no collusion, but possible obstruction of justice based off some examples. I think about 10 examples that Mueller kind of gave. Now, the way I looked at it was you can't have obstruction of justice if there's no collusion. Because if there's no collusion, even if he's lying, even if Trump lied or whatever, what's he obstructing?
I think that's a valid point. And remember this too. I do have some degree of faith in this attorney general. He's been in this role before. He was lauded by leaders on both sides of the aisle long before he ever took this job again a second time.
Yeah.
And what does he have to hide? What's his motive? What would be the advantage for him in saying anything other than, or interpreting anything other than the facts as he understands them?
Yeah.
And so the fact that he came out with the statement and the conclusion that he did, that there was no clear obstruction and there was no evidence of collusion, that tells me that there probably wasn't. And And so here we are. We're well over 2 years into a term. There is another tool that those making charges could use, and it's called an election.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
But that's not where their effort's going.
So how does this affect you? You're in the House. And the House is majority Democrat, but the House can also tie up Trump's hands through all sorts of investigations. They can call for investigations, indefinitely. So how does that affect you? And are you getting anything done?
Yes, and good point, and something I think about a lot. I will not have any significant impact during the traditional sense, or in the traditional sense of running legislation, writing legislation, sponsoring it, having hearings, promoting it, voting on it. That's not going to happen because I've already launched some legislation, some bills, and I won't get a hearing because I have the wrong initial behind my name. I'm in the minority.
Yeah,
right.
However, the agencies that I was referring to, although there's some of the senior members who are very negative on Trump, there's a good percentage that are very anxious to work with members of Congress, and the administration, the president has said to the likes of the Department of Ag, Department of Interior, Forest Service, BLM, Health Human Services, work with the states. Work with the states. So that's where my effort is going. I have a twofold effort, basically. One is to build relationships and work the issues within the state of Idaho directly with agencies who oftentimes have the force and effect of law in how they interpret rules, in how they enforce or don't enforce certain things. And we're having some success with that. And I'm excited about it. And sometimes I get sarcastic when we're talking about this Mueller report, just because to me, it's such a waste of time and energy. But there's positive things too, and that's working directly with these agencies. The second thing is building some rapport and hopefully some confidence within some of my colleagues, whether they're Republican or Democrat, by simply getting to know them. When I go into the U.S. House, I never sit in the same place.
Yeah.
I'll sit on the Republican side. I'll sit on the Democrat side. I'll get to know these people. We've got some pretty good rapport. And you know what? There's a significant percentage of them that would like to see this over with just as much as I do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is kind of bothered me over the recent years is how important our federal elections have gotten. And when I want politics to be as local as possible, and I want my mayoral election to be the most important thing that I vote on in the next 4 years. But you're seeing this huge current, this huge gravity pull towards DC. How can we get rid of that problem?
Well, it's actually magnified in the West, and I agree with you. By the way, in the last 2 weeks in the state, my primary purpose has been traveling from top to bottom, meeting with mayors, with city council, county commissioners, the sheriffs, the local legislators, because we are all working on the same thing. We shouldn't be, but we are. Yeah. Why are we? Because everything is intertwined. Everything is federally influenced, if not controlled.
Right.
In the West, it's even magnified because we are not landlords in the state of Idaho, or the members of or citizens of Nevada and Utah and Montana and Oregon and so on.
Right.
They aren't either, because it's federal land.
Yeah.
Right.
And the federal government owns and operates or has responsibility for those lands, which means that we don't really control our destiny like those who have the capacity to in the Midwest and in the East. So it's actually magnified.
Interesting.
In the West. And that was one of the shocks I got, by the way, gentlemen, was one of the surprises was coming to the realization that if you're a member of Congress from the Midwest or the East, there is a very good chance you have no concept of what it's like to govern in a state that's primarily federally owned.
Yeah.
Wow.
And property tax, for example, is off the table. But they're shocked by that.
Yeah.
So that gives us an automatic separation in how we look at governance. So there's a divide immediately with, say, New Jersey and Idaho, because because we don't look at governance the same.
Interesting. So how can we keep track of with you and what's going on out there so we can kind of stay aware? And then what can we do on our local level to kind of help, I don't know, move past some of this Mueller stuff?
First of all, I always encourage people, don't let a precinct committee seat go unfilled. Don't let a school board seat go unfilled. Don't let a city council seat go unfilled. This is part of our responsibility as citizens. And a republic, which is what we see, but a republic has a couple of prerequisites.
Yeah.
One is that the citizenry is informed. The other is that they're willing to engage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when good people with, in my opinion anyway, the beliefs that coincide with the divine inspiration of our founders, then that void will get filled, and it's with influences that are not in conjunction with that. So we, in a sense, reap what we sow if we don't get engaged. So that's the first thing and foremost. For me personally, I put out an update every week. That's online through russfulcher.com, and we encourage as much input and counsel as we can possibly get. I think the fact that you're doing this program, that you're communicating the way you are, that you're addressing the topics that you are, and you're willing to take those head on in the fashion that you do, I think that's a big help right there. So just keep doing what you're doing in that sense.
Well, we can do that. Hey. That's not hard for us to do. Hey, Russ, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you taking the time out to do that. Thank you very much. Until Sunday, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
That's our representative. District 1.
Man, we need to do this again.
You should talk to your representative.
Do you talk to your representative? You should.